My name is Hannah Miller, and the night my family called me ungrateful was the same night I realized I'd been paying for a house I wasn't allowed to live in. It was 2 days before Christmas, and my parents' living room smelled like cinnamon candles and baked ham. The tree blinked in that cozy, Hallmark way gold lights, red ribbon, stockings stitched with our names. Mine was still there, hung between my brother's and my dad's like I belonged. I was standing by the fireplace with a paper plate of deviled eggs I didn't even want, watching my brother, Tyler, take selfies in front of the tree with his wife, Megan, and their 2 kids. Megan kept angling the phone so the background showed the family photos on the mantel, like she was claiming the whole room as her brand. Tyler was laughing too loud, the way he always did when he wanted attention. My mum clinked her spoon against her wine glass. "Okay," she said, smiling like this was the happiest night of her life. "Before we do gifts, your father and I want to say something." Dad squeezed her hand. He looked proud. He looked like a man about to announce good news. Tyler stood up immediately, like he knew it was about him. My stomach tightened. Mum's eyes found me across the room. "Hannah, honey," she said in that sweet voice she used when she was asking for something big. "We just want to thank you for stepping up, for being responsible." People turned to look at me. Aunts, uncles, cousins, Megan's sister, who always smelt like perfume and judgment. Tyler's grin widened. Dad cleared his throat. "This family, we help each other," he said, then nodded toward Tyler. "And Tyler has been doing such a great job building a life. 2 kids, a growing family. He deserves stability." I already knew what was coming, but my chest still felt like it got punched. Mum held out her hands, as if she was offering a blessing. "So we want to announce," she said, "that Tyler and Megan are finally settled in their home, their forever home." The room erupted in little cheers and claps, like Tyler had personally built the house with his bare hands. Tyler lifted his beer. "Cheers to adulting," he said. Then my mum looked at me again. "And none of it would have been possible without Hannah," she said. "Because Hannah put the house in her name. Because Hannah has the credit score. Because Hannah made the bank say yes." Everyone clapped harder. I stood there, holding my plate, smiling with my teeth only. My face was calm, but my hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the deviled eggs. Because what they were celebrating, what they were calling family, was the reason my savings account looked like it had been bled, slowly, over 3 years. 3 years of mortgage payments, property taxes, home insurance, escrow shortages, repairs, the oops, the water heater died, emergencies, the Tyler's hours got cut, just this month, texts. The "Megan says daycare is killing them" calls. 3 years of paying for a house I wasn't welcome in. And now, at Christmas, they were turning my debt into a toast. My cousin Lila leaned in and whispered, "Wow, Hannah, that's so generous." Generous. That word almost made me laugh out loud. Because generosity is giving something you can afford to give. This wasn't generosity. This was obligation dressed up as love. Tyler walked over and clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Couldn't have done it without you," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "You're basically the reason we're not stuck in an apartment." Megan smiled at me like I was a helpful co-worker. "Seriously," she said, "you saved our family." I swallowed hard. Glad it worked out. I managed. My mum's eyes glistened as if she was about to cry. "You've always been our strong one," she said. And that was the moment I understood exactly what strong meant in my family. It meant the one who pays, the one who doesn't complain, the one who holds everyone else up until her arms go numb. Dad patted my cheek like I was still 17. "Now," he said, "we're going to do gifts. Megan, you wanted to go first, right?" Megan squealed and pulled out a stack of matching pajamas for the kids. Tyler handed out gift bags. My mum recorded everything on her phone, the way she always did when she wanted proof of happiness. I watched it like I was outside my own life. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket. A notification from my bank. Mortgage payment scheduled. $2,146.38. My heart actually stuttered, because it was the same payment, the same day, every month. Automatic draft, like a heartbeat. I couldn't stop. I stepped toward the hallway, away from the noise. Mum's voice followed me. "Where are you going?" Bathroom, I lied. I closed the door softly behind me and stared at myself in the mirror. 32. Mascara perfect. Hair curled. Sweater with a reindeer on it because my mum said it was festive. I looked like a woman who had her life together, but my checking account didn't feel festive. It felt like drowning. I leaned over the sink and breathed through my nose. In for 4, out for 4. Then I did something I'd been putting off because I knew it would change everything. I opened my banking app and turned off autopay. My thumb hovered for a full 5 seconds over the button. I heard laughter through the walls. Tyler's voice, Megan's voice, my dad's. I hit cancel. A little message popped up. Automatic payment disabled. My hands went cold. I stared at the screen like it was a gun I'd just fired. I walked back into the living room. The tree lights blinking. The family still smiling. The kids tearing into wrapping paper. Mum saw my face and frowned. "Hannah?" she asked quietly. I set my empty plate down and said, as calmly as I could, "I'm not paying the mortgage anymore." The room didn't explode right away. It went quiet in that slow, stunned way, like the sound got sucked out through the vents. Tyler's head snapped toward me. "What?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I turned off the autopay. I said, "I'm done." Megan's smile vanished. "Hannah, are you kidding?" My mum's face shifted into panic. "Honey, don't do this right now," she whispered, like I was embarrassing her. Dad's jaw tightened. "What the hell are you talking about? I've been paying for a house I don't live in," I said. "I've been paying because you told me it was temporary. It's been 3 years. I'm done." Tyler stood up so fast, his beer sloshed. "You can't just stop. Watch me," I said. And that's when my mum snapped into her real voice, the one she saved for when I stopped being useful. "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" she hissed. "You're going to ruin your brother's family." I felt something harden inside me. "No," I said. "I'm going to stop ruining my own." Dad pointed at me like I was a stranger. "After everything we've done for you," I laughed once, short and humorless. "What have you done for me?" My mum's eyes widened like I'd slapped her. "We raised you, and I've been paying for Tyler since I moved out," I said. "Rent help, car help, now a house. When does it end?" Tyler's face turned red. "You're acting like some kind of victim." I looked him straight in the eyes. "I am the one on the mortgage." Megan's voice went sharp. "That's because you offered." I shook my head. "No, I agreed, because Mom cried in my kitchen and said you'd lose the house and the kids would suffer, and it would be my fault." Mum's cheeks flushed. "I did not." "You did," I said. Not loud, just firm. "And I'm not doing it anymore." My aunt murmured, "Oh my God," under her breath. Tyler took a step toward me. "You're seriously going to do this at Christmas?" I held his gaze. "You were fine taking my money at Christmas." That's when Dad's voice went icy. "If you stop paying," he said, "you're dead to this family." The words landed like a brick. I felt my throat tighten, but I refused to cry. Not here, not in front of Megan's phone camera. Mum's mouth twisted. "I can't believe you," she said. "You're selfish. You have no heart. You're going to throw your own brother out on the street?" Tyler threw his hands up. "You're unbelievable. You think you're better than us because you've got a little desk job and a credit score." Megan crossed her arms. "You want to know what you are?" she said. "You're petty. You'd rather punish 2 kids than be a decent sister." I looked at the kids. One was chewing wrapping paper. The other was trying to fit a Lego piece in his mouth. They had no idea what any of this meant. Then Tyler said the sentence that changed how I saw him forever. He leaned in close enough that only I could hear and spat. "You were useful when you paid. If you're not paying, then get out of our lives." My chest burned. I nodded slowly, like my body was filing the statement away as evidence. "Okay," I said. Then I turned and walked out of my parents' house, while the Christmas tree blinked behind me like nothing was wrong. Outside, the air was cold enough to sting my lungs. My car had frost on the windshield. The neighborhood was lit up with inflatable Santas and twinkling lights, and people pretending the world was soft. I sat in my driver's seat and stared at the steering wheel, breathing hard. I didn't feel brave. I felt terrified, because stopping the payments was only the first domino. I was still the one legally responsible. My name was still on the deed. My credit score, my whole future was still tied to Tyler's forever home. And my family had just made it clear they would rather watch me sink than admit they'd been holding my head underwater. That night, I drove home to my small apartment, kicked off my boots, and sat on the edge of my bed in the dark. My phone started buzzing 10 minutes later. Mum, Dad, Tyler, Megan. Texts poured in like bullets. How dare you? Call me now. You're really doing this? The payment is due in 2 days. You're ruining Christmas. The kids are crying. They weren't. You owe us. The last one came from my dad. You owe us. I stared at it until my eyes blurred. Then I opened my laptop. I work in healthcare administration. Boring, steady, the kind of job people think means you're fine. I'm the woman who keeps the insurance approvals moving, who knows how to read a contract, who knows how to document everything. And right then, I treated my family like a case file. I pulled up the mortgage documents, the closing disclosures, the email chain from the lender, the deed, the escrow statements. And there it was, in black and white, like a trap I'd walked into, smiling. Borrower, Hannah Miller, property address, 1147 Holly Ridge Lane. Interest rate, 6.25%. Monthly payment, $2,146.38. In the beginning, my parents had told me it would be just until Tyler gets his credit up. That was their favorite phrase. Just until he gets his raise. Just until Megan goes back to work. Just until daycare gets cheaper. Just until the kids are older. Just until the interest rates come down. Just until I stop noticing my own life is passing while I fund theirs. I clicked into my bank transfers and searched the address. 3 years of payments. Over $77,000 sent straight from my account to keep that house afloat. And that was just the mortgage. Then there were the extras. The time the HVAC went out in July, and Tyler called me at 11 p.m, saying the kids were sweating, and Megan was freaking out. And could I please just put it on my card and he'd pay me back? The time the property tax escrow came up short, and the lender increased the monthly payment. And my mum told me, "It's not that much more, honey. Don't make a big deal." The time Megan texted me a photo of the fridge empty and said, "We're struggling this week." And my mum followed it up with, "Just help them. Don't be cold." I'd been paying not just for the house. I'd been paying to stay good in their eyes. I opened a blank document and typed a title like I was preparing for court. Holly Ridge timeline. Hannah Miller. Then I listed every single thing. Date we applied. Date we closed. Who paid the down payment, May? Who paid the closing costs, May? Who was supposed to refinance in a year? Tyler. How many times Tyler attempted to refinance? 0. How many payments he personally made? I had to check there were 2, both in the first month, right after closing, like a performance. I saved it. Then I called my friend Andrea, who is the kind of woman who tells the truth like it's oxygen. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey," she said. "How's Christmas chaos?" "I'm about to blow up my family," I said, and my voice cracked on the last word. Andrea didn't laugh. "Okay," she said instantly. "Tell me everything." By the time I finished, she was quiet for a second. Then she said, "Hannah, you realize you're not just helping them. You're carrying all the legal risk." "I know," I whispered. "And Tyler's living there?" she asked. "Yes." "Does he have a lease?" Andrea asked. "No." "So he's basically squatting in your house," she said. I blinked. "That sounds harsh." "It is harsh," Andrea said, "but it's also accurate." I stared at my laptop screen. The numbers, the documents, and if he misses payments, Andrea continued, "your credit gets trashed." "Not his." "I know. So what are you going to do?" she asked. I swallowed. "I don't know." Andrea exhaled. "Yes, you do." I didn't answer, but my silence did. "Sell it," she said. My heart thumped. The word felt like lighting a match near gasoline. "I can't just sell it," I said, even though I knew I could. "It's in your name," Andrea replied. "It's your house. You can sell it. But the kids." "Hannah," she cut in gently. "The kids have parents. You're not the parent. I closed my eyes. Then, Andrea said, "You need a lawyer. Not because you're wrong, but because your family will try to scare you, and you need to stop listening to fear." So the next morning, while the world posted Christmas cookie photos and pajamas and matching families, I sat in my kitchen with my coffee and called a real estate attorney. His name was Mark Feldman, and he sounded like someone who had spent his life dealing with people who thought emotions changed contracts. He listened while I explained everything. When I finished, he said, "So, to confirm, the deed is solely in your name?" "Yes," I said. "And the mortgage is solely in your name?" "Yes." "And Tyler is living there with no written lease agreement?" "Yes." Mark paused. "Then legally, Hannah, it's your property. You can sell. The question is logistics, notice, access, potential claims." "What claims?" I asked. "Families like yours will scream gift and promise," he said. "Do you have anything in writing that says you gifted the house to Tyler?" "No," I said. "Good," he replied. "Do you have texts where they acknowledge you're paying and they'll refinance?" I opened my messages. There were dozens. "Mum, just for now, Tyler will refinance next year. Tyler, we'll take it over once my credit is better. Megan, thanks for covering. We'll make it right." I felt cold. "Yes," I said quietly. "Excellent," Mark said. "Those work in your favor." My throat tightened. "But if I sell, I'm not evil, right?" Mark didn't hesitate. "You're not evil for protecting your financial future," he said. "You're a person who signed a loan. You have a right to not drown." I hung up and sat still for a long time. Then I did the next thing, like ripping off a bandage. I called Tyler. He didn't pick up. Of course he didn't. So I texted him, "Tyler, I'm selling Holly Ridge. I'll send formal notice. You need to plan for moving." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "Are you insane?" Then, "Mom is losing it." Then, "You can't do this." My hands shook, but I typed back anyway. "I can, because it's in my name. I'm done." Within 30 seconds, my mum called. I answered, because part of me still wanted her to be my mum. She didn't say hello. She screamed, "What is wrong with you?" I held the phone away from my ear for a second. When she ran out of breath, I said, "I'm selling it." "You will not," she said. "You are not destroying your brother's family." "I'm not destroying anything," I replied. "I'm ending my involvement." "You're punishing us," she cried. "After everything." "Stop saying that," I said. "Stop acting like you gave me some huge gift. I paid for it. I pay for everything." My mum's voice got sharp, almost hateful. "You always think you're the martyr." "I don't think I'm a martyr," I said. "I think I'm the borrower. I think..." Dad's voice came on suddenly, like he'd grabbed the phone from her. "Listen to me," he said low. "You sell that house. Don't bother coming to Christmas ever again. Don't bother calling us. You're choosing money over blood." My hands clenched into a fist. "No," I said. "I'm choosing reality over guilt." He scoffed. "You're cold." I felt tears press behind my eyes, but I blinked them back. "You're using me," I said. Dad's voice turned cruel. "You know what you are? You're a calculator with legs. You count dollars instead of caring. If you had any decency, you'd keep paying and stop acting like a victim." That sentence sat in my chest like poison, and I realized something that hurt more than the money. They didn't love me for who I was. They loved me for what I covered. I inhaled slowly and said, "I'll have my lawyer send the notice." My dad's voice rose. "If you do this, Hannah, you will regret it." I didn't yell back. I just said, "I regret signing the loan." Then I hung up. My hands were shaking so hard I had to set the phone down like it might explode. I called Mark back and asked, "What's the proper way to do this?" He walked me through it like a checklist. Formal notice to occupants. Reasonable timeline 30 days is common, but we'd consider local requirements. Schedule a time for appraisal and showings. Secure the property access. Document everything. Also, Mark added, "You should be prepared for them to try to stop you emotionally." I gave a broken laugh. "That already happened." He said, "This will get uglier before it gets better. But you'll be free. The word free hit me like sunlight. So I did what I always do when I'm scared. I got organized. I printed the mortgage statements. I made a folder. I saved screenshots of texts. I wrote down dates, amounts, everything. Then I called a realtor. Her name was Kendra Shaw, and she had the kind of upbeat confidence that felt like armor. When I explained the situation, she didn't judge. She just said, "Okay, we can do this. Clean. Can we sell fast?" I asked. "It's December," she said. "But honestly, people relocate, people buy, and the spring market is around the corner. If the house is in good shape, we'll price it right and get traction." I stared out my apartment window at the grey winter sky. Tyler won't cooperate. Kendra's tone stayed calm. "Then we plan, as if he won't," she said. "But we still move." 2 days later, we met at the house. I hadn't been inside since the closing day, when my parents walked through like it was their accomplishment, and Tyler acted like he was picking out a hotel. When I pulled up now, I saw kids' toys in the yard, a plastic basketball hoop tilted, a wreath on the door. It looked like a normal family home, a normal home I paid for. Tyler opened the door before I even knocked. His face was tight, eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept. Behind him, Megan stood with her arms crossed, her mouth already curled into a sneer. "You've got some nerve," Tyler said. Kendra stepped forward first, professional smile. "Hi," she said brightly. "I'm Kendra. Hannah asked me to do a market evaluation." Megan's eyes narrowed. "Market evaluation," she repeated like it was a dirty phrase. "So this is real?" It's real," I said. Tyler's voice cracked. "You're actually doing this?" I looked past him into the hallway. I saw framed family photos on the wall. Tyler and Megan at the pumpkin patch. Tyler holding the baby. Tyler laughing. Pictures of a life funded by my name. "I told you," I said. "I'm done paying." Megan stepped closer, her voice sharp. "You're sick. You really are. You're going to kick 2 kids out because you're having some meltdown about being unappreciated?" Kendra cleared her throat gently. "I'm just here to look at condition and comps," she said. "We'll be quick." Tyler moved like he might block the hallway. "No," he snapped. My heart hammered, but I kept my voice steady. "Tyler," I said, "you don't get to say no. This isn't your loan." He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Megan's voice went low and vicious. "So what now?" she said. "You want us to beg? You want to feel powerful?" I felt my throat tighten. "I want to feel safe," I said quietly. "I want to not wake up every month terrified you'll miss a payment and ruin my credit." Tyler threw his hands up. "We haven't missed." "Because I paid," I said. He glared. "We would have—" "No," I cut in, and my voice sharpened for the first time. "You didn't. You didn't refinance. You didn't take over. You didn't even ask what it was doing to me. You just lived." Tyler's jaw clenched. "You're my sister." I nodded. "Exactly," I said. "I'm your sister, not your bank." Megan scoffed. "You're so dramatic." I looked at her and said, "I'm not dramatic. I'm documented." Kendra moved past us, clipboard out. She kept it polite, but she didn't stop. She checked the floors, the kitchen counters, the backyard. Tyler followed her like a guard dog. I stood in the living room and stared at the Christmas tree they'd set up in the corner. It was decorated with silver ornaments and a big star on top. They'd made it pretty. They'd made it feel like theirs. My phone buzzed with a message from my mom. "Stop this. You're humiliating us." Humiliating. Because in my family, money wasn't just money. It was status. It was control. It was who got to be seen as good. And me refusing to pay wasn't just inconvenient. It was exposing them. Kendra finished in 20 minutes and stepped outside with me. In the driveway, she lowered her voice. "Condition is decent," she said. "Somewhere. But it's sellable. Depending on comps, we could list around $385,000 to $399,000. My stomach flipped. "What about the mortgage balance?" "We'll pull payoff," she said. "But you've been paying 3 years. You've built equity." Equity. A word I'd never let myself think about, because it felt wrong to profit off something my brother lived in. But then I remembered Tyler's whisper at my parents' house. You were useful when you paid. If you're not paying, then get out of our lives. And suddenly, the idea of me walking away with nothing felt like letting them win twice. Kendra said, if we sell, you'll pay off the loan at closing. Any leftover is yours. I swallowed. They'll say I stole it. Kendra's eyes were kind but firm. You didn't steal anything, she said. You carried it. That night, Mark emailed me the formal notice. I stared at it for a long time before sending it, because once it was sent, it wasn't a fight anymore. It was a process, and processes don't care who cries. I emailed it to Tyler and Megan, and I also mailed a hard copy, certified, because Mark insisted. The next morning, my mum showed up at my apartment unannounced. She banged on the door like she was the police. I opened it, and she stormed in, red-faced, coat half on, hair messy. My dad stood behind her in the hallway, like a silent threat. You can't do this, my mum cried, pacing my living room. You're being cruel. I didn't offer her coffee. I didn't offer her a seat. I just said, it's happening. Dad's eyes were hard. We didn't raise you to be like this. I felt something in me finally snap into clarity. You raised me to be responsible, I said. You raised me to be the backup plan. My mum's voice cracked. Because you're capable. Tyler struggles. Tyler is 30, I said. Dad's tone turned dark. So you're going to make them homeless? No, I replied. They're going to rent an apartment like millions of people do. My mum whirled on me. You think you're so smart, she spat. You think you're better. You're going to sit in your little apartment and count your money while your brother's kids suffer. I stared at her. I'm not counting money, I said. I'm counting boundaries. My mum's face twisted. I don't recognize you. I said, that's because you never looked at me unless you needed something. Silence fell. Dad stepped forward, voice low and final. If you go through with this, he said, you are not welcome here. Don't show up at our door. Don't call. Don't expect forgiveness. I didn't flinch this time. Okay, I said. My mum's eyes went wide. That's it? She whispered. You're choosing this? I nodded. Yes, I said. I'm choosing me. She stared at me like I'd committed a crime. Then she said something that was supposed to break me. You'll end up alone, she said softly, venom wrapped in pity. No one stays with a woman who treats family like a bill. I felt a sting behind my eyes, but I didn't cry. I just said, then at least I'll be alone in a life I can afford. My mum made a sound like a sob, like she was the victim, and she pushed past my dad and out the door. Dad paused in the doorway and looked back at me. His face didn't soften. He just said, Merry Christmas, like it was a curse. Then he left. I locked the door, leaned my back against it, and slid down to the floor. My apartment was silent except for my own breathing. It hurt. I won't pretend it didn't, because even when your family is wrong, losing them still feels like losing your home. But as I sat there, I realized something. My family had been using the word home like a weapon. Home was Tyler's house. Home was my parents' living room. Home was the place where my money went. But my voice didn't matter. And for the first time, sitting on the floor of my small apartment, I felt like maybe home could also be peace. Over the next 2 weeks, my family tried everything. They tried guilt. Mum texted me photos of the kids with sad captions. They keep asking why Aunt Hannah is mad. I didn't reply. Tyler called from different numbers. He left voicemails. You're ruining my life. Mum's crying all day. You're going to make us move in the middle of winter. Megan sent a message that made my skin crawl. You're going to regret this. People will know what you did. Like I was supposed to fear reputation more than foreclosure. Then they tried bargaining. Dad left a voicemail. Calm. Like he was negotiating a used car. Hannah, we can make a plan. Just pay 3 more months. That's all we need. Tyler's going to get a promotion. Then he'll refinance. 3 more months. The same lie. Repackaged. I forwarded everything to Mark. Kendra scheduled photos for the listing. Tyler refused to cooperate at first. But Mark's notice, and the reality that I wasn't bluffing, finally forced movement. The day the photographer came, Megan stayed in the house and followed her around like a shadow, muttering under her breath. Tyler sat on the couch with his head in his hands. The kids ran around like nothing was happening. Because kids don't know about interest rates and credit scores. Kendra called me that evening. "We're live," she said. The listing went up right before New Year's. Professional photos, bright kitchen, fireplace, backyard, a caption that said, "Cozy family home in a quiet neighborhood, close to schools and parks. Move in ready. Move in ready." I almost laughed, because it was also, "Get out of my life ready." Showing started in the first week. Tyler and Megan were furious. Megan sent me a voice memo that I didn't open until later, because I needed to be emotionally stable first. When I finally listened, her voice was cold. "I hope you know you're not the hero," she said. "You're not some strong woman setting boundaries. You're a selfish woman, making kids suffer. You're going to carry that forever." I stared at my kitchen wall and whispered to myself, "No," because I wasn't going to carry her opinion. I'd carried enough. On January 10th, Kendra called me, excitement in her voice. "We got an offer," she said. My heart jumped. "Already?" "Actually, 2, she said. "One at list, one above." I sat down hard on my couch. "Above?" "Yeah," she said. "A couple relocating from out of state. They love the schools. They're ready to close fast." I swallowed. "What's the number?" Kendra told me, and I felt something inside me unclench. Because if we accepted that offer, after payoff and closing costs, I would walk away with money left over. Not just debt cleared, not just my credit saved, but actual cash. Money I could use to rebuild what I'd been draining away for years. Kendra said, "Do you want to counter?" My hands trembled. "Yes," I said. We countered. The buyers accepted. The inspection was smooth. Minor repairs. Nothing catastrophic. Tyler tried one last Hail Mary. He showed up at my apartment on a Saturday morning, unshaven, eyes red, hands shoved in his hoodie pockets. He looked smaller than I remembered. I opened the door and didn't invite him in. He stared at me like I was a wall. "Please," he said. I didn't speak. He swallowed. "I messed up," he said. "Okay, I admit it. I should have refinanced. I should have taken over. But I didn't think you'd actually do this," I said quietly. "You didn't think I'd protect myself." Tyler's eyes flicked down. "Mum says you're doing it to punish us." I let out a slow breath. "Tyler," I said, "you punished me for years by assuming I'd never say no." His voice cracked. "Where are we supposed to go?" I stared at him. "Anywhere," I said. "An apartment, a rental house. You're adults." "Ah," he shook his head, frustration rising. "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple," I said. "It's just not convenient." Tyler's face tightened. "So you're really taking the extra money?" The way he said taking made my stomach turn, like I was stealing from him. I nodded. "Yes." His eyes flashed. "That's messed up." I felt a quiet rage rise. Not explosive, but steady. "I paid the down payment," I said. "I paid the mortgage. I paid the escrow shortages. I paid when your AC broke. I paid when you texted, 'We're short this month,' like it was weather. That money isn't yours." Tyler's jaw clenched. "But we lived there." I looked at him and said, "Exactly. You lived." And then I said the line that I'd been holding back. The truth that finally needed air. "I've been surviving." Tyler's eyes welled. "So what now?" he asked, voice small. "You're just done?" I thought about the Christmas tree, the toast, the way my dad called me a calculator with legs. I nodded once. "I'm done being the family emergency fund," I said. "I'm not done being your sister, but I am done being your solution." Tyler's face twisted, torn between anger and desperation. Then he whispered, "You're really going to make us start over?" I said, "So am I." He stared at me for a long moment. Then, like a child, he said, "Mum was right. You don't care." That hurt. It still hurt. But I didn't let it change the truth. I replied softly, "I care enough to stop enabling you." Tyler's face hardened again. He took a step back. "Fine," he snapped. "Hope it's worth it." Then he turned and walked away. I closed the door and leaned my forehead against it for a moment. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exhausted, but I also felt something else. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. Closing day came at the end of January. It was grey outside. Snow piled along the curbs like old sugar. I sat in the title office, with Mark's paperwork, and Kendra's big, cheerful smile, and a pen in my hand. Tyler and Megan didn't show. They sent a furious email instead, full of accusations. But it didn't matter anymore. I signed the documents. The mortgage was paid off in full, and when the wire hit my account that afternoon, I stared at the number like I couldn't trust it. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was mine. It was the part of my life I'd been bleeding out that I could finally pour back into myself. That night, my mum texted me one final message. We had to move into a motel for now. I hope you can live with yourself. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back, for the first time in weeks. I can, because now I can finally live. Then I blocked her. Tyler and Megan found a rental 2 weeks later, a small duplex on the other side of town. I know because my aunt texted me, trying to guilt me with details. They're struggling, she wrote. The kids miss the backyard. I stared at the message and felt sadness, yes, but also clarity. Because the backyard was never mine. The burden was, and I'd finally put it down. That spring, I did something I'd never done before. I used money without fear. I paid off my credit card. I opened a high-yield savings account. I took Andrea out to dinner and didn't apologize for ordering the steak. I also went to therapy because I realized my family didn't just take my money. They took my ability to trust my own feelings. My therapist asked me once, "What did you learn in that house situation?" I thought for a long moment, then said, "That love without respect becomes a trap," and that became my anchor. By the time next Christmas rolled around, I didn't go to my parents' house. I didn't stand under their tree pretending. Instead, I hosted a small Friendsgiving-style Christmas dinner in my apartment. Andrea, 2 co-workers, and a neighbour who didn't have family nearby. We ate store-bought pie and laughed until our stomachs hurt. We played cheesy holiday music and didn't fight once. At one point, Andrea raised her glass and said, "To Hannah," she announced, for finally choosing herself. I felt my cheeks heat, but I smiled, because for the first time, that word selfish didn't scare me. If being selfish meant I could breathe again, then maybe selfish wasn't the insult my family thought it was. It was survival. Later that night, after everyone left, I stood by my small Christmas tree. Nothing fancy, just a tabletop tree with warm lights, and I looked around my quiet apartment. No yelling, no guilt, no emergency calls, just peace. And I realized something simple and bright. Family should feel like a place you can rest, not a bill you're forced to pay. So, if you're watching this and you're the responsible one, the one who always fixes it, always covers it, always saves, everyone hear me clearly. You can love people and still refuse to finance their choices. You can be kind and still protect your future. And the moment you stop paying for other people's comfort, you finally start building your own.